Lauren, welcome to the Lessons of a Lashpreneur show. So glad you're here.
Hello.
All right, so why don't you give kind of a little brief intro of who you are and where you're at and what you do?
So I'm Lauren with Honey Slice Beauty out of, Louisville, but Dallas, DFW area. I'm lashes specifically, spray tans, and body waxing as well.
Love it. Beautiful. All right. So you've been in the mastermind since January, and at the time of this recording, it's end of May. And we actually just finished up our retreat about 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So kind of tell me about Lauren, before joining this program. What were you facing? Why was this program something that was appealing to you?
I think in this industry, there is a high potential to build it to something based off of emotions and wanting to help people. But at a certain point, you have to get very intentional with what you're doing, or you're going to get, I don't want to say stagnant, but it's going to get to the point where you're running into a lot of problems and burnout, losing a lot of your time.
Yeah, I would agree. So why was the mastermind and building out a team something that you were like, this is an area I need help with? Because if I remember right, with your first hello call where we kind of got introduced, you had a team member, or you had just lost a team member.
Mm-hmm. So I would say every time I listen to any, I'll just say free content out there on building a team, I was making every single mistake that someone who had gone through it before me was making. And so I was like, I need to get help. I really need help.
Can we fast track this a little bit? Like, I don't want to keep making these mistakes. They're painful and expensive.
Yeah.
So what were some of those mistakes?
So my first employee was a friend's sister. And I mean, within a couple of weeks, she was already like stealing lashes, taking clients at home behind my back. And like now looking back, I don't blame myself, but like I take responsibility for it because I was very much just throwing her to the wolves. I was, just like kind of cool. I've got a warm body in here. Figure it out. I mean, obviously I trained her, but definitely not to the extent that she deserved.
Okay. Was it 1099 or was it W-2?
W-2.
Okay, beautiful. So then you joined the mastermind and you actually chose the most support option that we have. So there's different tiers of support, whether you want one-on-one coaching, if you just want the group calls. And one of our highest tiers is where you get an actual VIP day with me. So we only offer 2 spots for that top tier because there's only a day before our in-person retreat or a day after. So I only had 2 spots available, and you were the day after the retreat. So kind of talk to me just before we get to the VIP day part of it. What was what was some of the struggles that you were facing? Because I know by the time you got to the retreat, you're just like, because we had worked a lot on mindset stuff, and there was almost some frustration that every one of our coaching calls was about mindset, but then there was also the how-tos that you wanted to start working on, and you kind of had this struggle of, I love the mindset stuff. I'm drawn to the mindset stuff, but when can I start to implement? Because I feel like my head's getting in the way, but I want to implement. So kind of walk me through what that was like for you.
The older I get, the more emotional of a person I am. And it's very hard for me. I do not show emotion well. I don't deal with my own emotions well. And we're learning that business and your personality and emotion go hand in hand. It's not separated. And so this has been a lot of like childhood trauma work, which is great. I'm so happy that I had it, but total honesty, it's I don't want to say exhausting, but it is in some ways, where those things that you've pushed down for so long to get through things, and now you're kind of like churning it all up. It is exhausting, but in a good way. And I'll be far better off for working through it.
Yeah, there's this phrase I use that's called what you resist persists. And I think you were like the picture perfect of that, because you had been trying to resist so much, and it was creating this cyclical behavior where these belief systems kept you stuck. And really, I mean, if you're okay with me divulging, like you were heading into depression, if not fully there, and how much that was holding you back. right? So kind of explore that. And if you're okay, just get as vulnerable as you're comfortable with, but like what that's been like being a part of a program that moves pretty quick, right? There's a lot of information coming at you. There's a lot of processes, but also just your capacity and bandwidth to be able to start to implement that stuff, even though you know you have the resources for it, just the energy that it felt like it was going to take from you to be able to just even start down that path.
So in the beginning, I think we had a conversation where I was like, I really need to be in the steps that come at the end of this program, like now. I'm the person that was like, I just need to start hiring people and I'll make more money. And I got a bigger space because I needed it, but then had no, I'm not a business person. Like I didn't have that mindset, and I will build into being a business person, but I didn't have those bricks laid in the beginning. And so I was just spinning my wheels, and every day it was like, oh my gosh, I'm paying so much in rent and I'm not having the income coming in. And that was a depressant. I know we had talked about booth renters. I'm not the most trusting person, so that was really causing me stress, even though I'm sure that would have been a great option. And I definitely was very, very depressed. It doesn't help that it was wintertime and the lack of sun does not help me at all. But the clarity that I have coming up on the end and realizing I had to go through all of the stuff beforehand to get to the end of this. Although, yeah, of course, back then I wanted to skip ahead, but I had to do it in these steps. Yeah.
Like the healing work, and especially over this past, month, especially, if you don't heal it, it continues to come up, and it's the avoidance of the pain that's healing that really keeps you stuck. I feel like in a lot of ways you had really pushed yourself into a corner where you weren't giving yourself many options to get out of the pain point you were experiencing. Because in a lot of ways, when you first started, the whole goal was to start to pay yourself more, because Lauren has $3,000 a month in rent, which is insanely high because she's solo. So already, even if she was pumping out and being fully booked and doing $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month in rent or in sales, most of that was going to rent. So she made the investment into this space with the anticipation that she was going to build out a team to help support that, but she didn't have that blueprint to start with. And so she really was kind of chasing her tail for a lot of it. And a lot of that was the mindset piece of, no, this one avenue of building out a team, and I have to do that quickly to get out of the pain point of rent. You held on to that for a long time. And I feel like just over the past couple of weeks, especially as we get kind of towards the end of this program, is when you've started to get relief. And the vision and why you got started in this business in the first place is really what has lit a new fire under you. So share with me about the VIP day and especially the retreat too, and just how the combination of that week really has kind of changed your trajectory and put you on a new path.
Well, with the retreat, I mean, although we would like to, I would say, do everything online, being in the room and having the vibes of like these other women and the energy, because I'm definitely one of those people that take on other people's energy. It was amazing. It was amazing to not feel alone, and knowing that, we have women in our group that are me kind of at the bottom. And then we have people all the way who have
bottom. Nope, beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then people who have multiple salons. And although like I look at those mates of mine and I'm like, oh my gosh, they've built so much. Will I ever get there? But they have their struggles too. So it doesn't mean that they're any better or worse off than me, basically.
Yeah, you're
so
both
it was great to, yeah. So, and it was great to have the support of, I'm dealing with this cancellation policy issue, and it's just nice to see it from multiple perspectives, multiple personality types. Like, I'm not an overly OCD person. So I was like, am I ever going to have the processes in place like so-and-so? But yeah, you just have to twinge your brain a little bit to start working in a different direction, or make it work for you and your personality type. Your business doesn't have to be a cookie cutter thing.
Yeah. So talk with me about, so the VIP day specifically, we go through an exercise where we're basically building out the whole business of what it looks like 10 years from now. And that's a very, very intimidating thing to do, except for when you give yourself permission to really dream big. And I think as part of our VIP day, so I think it was planned for like 6 or 7 hours. And it's just us sitting in a conference room building this out. But I think even just noticing you and knowing that like ADHD is something that is part of your brain, like sitting in a conference room wasn't the container to get the best out of you. So we actually went for a walk, and that's when like the dreams, and I kept pushing you to dream bigger. And what would that look like? And so share with me kind of your passion and excitement for what we created that day and kind of what the vision of Honey Slice now moving forward is, because this was a very different view of what her business was going to be, 6 months ago when we first had our call. So walk me through Honey Slice over the next 10 years trajectory.
So when you get into the 10-year plan, I think it's easier to drop away the like, am I going to start a lash line? Am I, what are my policies that I want to put in place over the next year? And so for me, I wanted to look at how I felt about my business in 10 years. And a huge, huge thing for me is humanitarianism. And I felt like today walking into my business, I'm like, who am I helping? Although beauty in itself, giving women like having lashes and them feeling beautiful with that is amazing. But I'm in on a larger scale. Like I want to work with, domestic violence stuff. I want to support, people who are just anything. I want to put my money where my mouth is, I guess. And I've always wanted to build my business on humanitarianism and helping people. And sitting down with you, it was fun to like dream. And I think we even talked, I was like, I want to have a plane. And you were like, does that go with like your holistic brand? And I was like, actually, yes, because I want to be able to fly resources to situations like what Ukraine has been going through. I want to have that quick access instead of, I don't want to say like waiting on FEMA or something, but yeah, I mean, I want to be the person that's like, we need stuff now. And I want to be the person to have the resources to do that. And so getting out of the day-to-day profit and loss and all of that, it was amazing. And to finally feel like I'm getting my business how I wanted it, the profitability that I wanted to have.
Yeah. And it's, you guys, if you haven't been listening long enough or you haven't ever worked with me, I am constantly saying work with the end in mind. And so when we can get back into dream mode, which so many people restrict themselves to because they're so stuck in their circumstances. Because if we hadn't gone through this whole plan and we built out this $50 million a year business with 25 locations globally, which is kind of what we came up with for Lauren, and why having that business model was important, she would look at where she is now to that and just get overwhelmed and be like, I don't know how. So I always go from F the how for now, let's dream, and then work backwards on what that's actually going to look like. And that's basically what we walked through in your VIP days. We got the 10-year target. Then we looked at the 3-year plan. Where do we need to be in 3 years to be on pace to reach that 10 years? Because it's not like you dream this thing and then we just, cross our fingers and hope it's going to work out. No, we build to that. What steps are going to take? What do you have to let go of? What needs to happen? So we got the 3-year plan. We got a little bit more specific in where the business needed to be and how many locations and how many team members and all this kind of stuff in order to be on pace for 10 years. Then we get more granular and we go into the 1-year plan, 1-year goals, something like that. And then we build out 1 year, and then we can break it into quarters. So now she has a very concrete plan of what that's going to look like over the next quarter for her to be on pace for that 10-year target. And so it's much more intentional about building that out where you have this clarity, and you can tell me if this is the experience you've had, but where now all of a sudden the things that would stump you, that you would struggle with prior to getting this clarity, now all of a sudden we weigh it on, no, I have bigger dreams. So me having a client talk down to me, or me having a client that's not going to show up because of XYZ, they were late. We're going to enforce the policy because this is not about Lauren's wants, wishes, or whatever in the moment. We need to create a system that can be repeatable and scalable so multiple team members can follow this process so that we have this business that we want in 10 years. Has that been your experience where you're kind of like getting out of the day-to-day funk?
Exactly. And I think weirdly enough too, it brought a little bit more of compassion. It's like, Lauren, you're trying to build this very compassionate business. And when these people are I don't want to say acting this way, but you know, when people are doing certain things, it's so much better to like take a step back and be like, they're going through something. Don't forget your end goal. And the other thing too that we really got granular with was my core values. Like, of course, I want to sit there and say being on time is a core value, but in the overall grand scale, that wasn't one of my top fives. It was like connection. Um, I'd have to pull it up, but you
Emotional
know, it's just all,
safety, integrity.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And when you're doing what I'm currently doing as I'm trying to build out my team, where I'm just packed full and don't have that my cup to pour from, I do find myself being short with clients who are pushing me or whatever, and that's not the type of business I want to have. So having this clarity of the next steps, it's just I'm becoming a better me. Period.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry again. Dang it. We just got off a coaching call, and at the end she was talking about how amazing her VIP day was, and she brought me to tears. It's hard to do. It really is. But I know what a journey you've been on, and to see you as freed and as light as the energy I'm getting across from you, even virtually, I notice a massive difference in you, and I'm just so excited for what's ahead. Okay.
Well, and even on our VIP day, I mean, especially with me being so ADD, I can ramble on and on. I'm doing it now. I know I am. But you were so patient with me, and just, you weren't like, okay, Lauren, let's get back to this. You were like, okay, keep talking. And you would type something out and I'd be like, yes, or, oh, wait. No, let's change it to this word. And then that would just open a floodgate of creativity and where I'm going, and, you know, getting to dream more about what I want.
Pulling it out of your head and then getting it on paper. So now you have a plan. Because what I teach her in this is to do this again, to come up with your next quarter's rock. So you look at what you accomplished in that quarter. Did we meet our goal? If not, we need to make up for it in the next quarter. So there really is a structure to, again, continue to keep chipping away at that 10-year goal. So all of a sudden, you know, it doesn't come by mistake, right? It's actual intention behind building out the business and this dream business. So as far as the program, there's 3 different components to it. There's the content, like the how-to, the processes, the topics of the month. There's the coaching aspect, so hot seat coaching, and then also you had one-on-one coaching once a month, and then also the community, so the other girls a part of it. Which of those 3 was like your most favorite?
I'd say community,
Okay,
honestly.
share more.
Just having, so all of us are in like an Instagram group and we can chat back and forth. And, you know, you, Tara, obviously have to have your own personal time. So being able to go to them.
I wasn't even invited. Nobody invited the teacher. No, it's fine.
So, well, and eventually you're going to grow to a point where you can't, because it would just be too much. But, you know, having these other girls that have gone through something already and how they handled it, and having them as support as teachers in their own way has been amazing. And it's been how you ended up picking all of us. I mean, we're all very similar. Like, we come from such different places, but our mindsets are in the same place. And it's really cool to like feel the camaraderie with people who have the same mindset as you.
Yeah, that is my commitment to this group. So it is application only. I do not accept everybody that applies. It's like the society, if you want to join, just join. But because this is a much more intimate, a higher level group, and there's a lot of personal stuff, especially at this level. It's a lot of performance-based type coaching where, yes, I can give you a step-by-step. So there's a lot of deeper mindset stuff that comes up. And so building out a group that respects the container of safety that we want to create for women to be vulnerable, to be able to have breakdowns, to get to the breakthroughs, and to be able to have women that are equally ready to give as they are to receive is my intention and commitment to this program. Is that I will not let people in who are solely focused just on the money. If it's a money grab for you, this is probably not the right program for you. If you're there to be a taker, not the right program for you, because I expect you to show up and give as much as you receive, because we are going to pour into you and we are going to help you and support you and be your biggest cheerleaders. And so, yeah, it is very intentional that I don't let everybody in. And that's not to say, not to be like, ooh, we're the mean girls club. It really is so that we can create this container of safety for those that are ready to do that work. And because of who I am and the content I talk about with mindset stuff, I know specifically for you, you were all in on just like the mindset piece alone was what made me stand out and more unique to you. And it's something I geek out on. And because I don't think we've talked about that this yet, because I think the other interviews I did before we did Breathwork. Tell people about Breathwork in general, because I know out of all of them, like, well, I think they're all pretty much advocates for it now, but we had a very special session at the retreat called Breathwork. And you are like, I am doing this now forever, once a month at least. I'm going to start doing it in my business. So kind of share just as best as you can about how powerful the Breathwork was.
So when I got back, I was, of course, telling all of my clients about it because I would like to have it as a workshop, if not monthly, quarterly for them to do. And of course they're like, well, what is it? And I'm like, I don't know how else to explain it other than it's literally hyperventilating your body into creating
therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say DMT or psychedelic effects in your brain. And some people that's not for them, but to me, it is even the defense, like for the country, the military uses breath work. Therapists use it. It's not some woo-woo spiritual thing. I mean, our breath is very important. And something that I was listening to a TED talk about it, and he said, some doors only open from within, and you have to use breath work to get there. And it's, if you're into meditation, it's a great actually starting point before meditation, because meditation can be very distractible. And this is a great way to focus just in and out.
Yeah.
And I cried through my whole
I think we all did.
session.
I think it took one person a while to cry. She cried later that night because she was like refusing to share. But yeah, the way that I equate it, just you guys can do your own research, but breathwork basically is a pattern breathing method that a facilitator walks you through, and we have an amazing facilitator. I'm not going to share her publicly because I want to keep her to myself. But she walks you through. There's a playlist that goes along with it, and to me that was really beneficial because you start to breathe as the playlist kind of crescendos. It's an hour-long thing, but it allows your brain to calm down, and you get out of your head and out of logistics, and you start to go almost into I don't know, for me, like I get out of my body. It's like an out of body experience, but it's all your breath. There's no psychedelics, there's no drugs, there's nothing involved, but you get this out of body experience where you get clarity. And it's just, you want to be an observer of what's coming up for you, because that's your subconscious going, here's something to think about. And I think that's the container. And I say container, basically the room, the bonding that we had, the trust and the safety amongst the other members that were there, really created this safe space to have some breakdowns, to have some breakthroughs, to have some tears and releasing of emotion. Even if you're resistant to what's happening, that is something to acknowledge and just be observant to. And we don't put any judgment on it. And it's just it's been very beneficial for me personally to go through breath work. And I try to do it once a month or every other month, because it's just, it's like doing a bunch of therapy, but without, the long-term, you can get to revelations very quickly. So I think I got some junkies, some breathwork junkies now.
Yeah. It's therapy with yourself. And it's also, you are always in control. I've had quite a few people that, when I talk about shrooms or acid or whatever, they're like, I don't want to feel out of control. And this is, you're 100% in control of your experience.
Yeah, you just slow down your breath work, or you become more present in your body, and you're back to reality. So it is fascinating. So I highly recommend it, especially if you struggle with anxiety or depression. It can be a really powerful tool to use to kind of help cope with that. All right. Exactly. So if somebody is on the fence with joining this program, or they want to build out a team, or they're just, even if they're struggling financially and they just want to be able to pay themselves, kind of what advice can you share to them, or what would you have told Lauren from 6 months ago to know whether this was the right fit or not for them?
So much is coming through. So I would just go back to the setting intentions, because unless you are just a very specific personality type, and a lot of us that get into the beauty industry we want to help others. And a lot of times we can be the more empathic people. Being more business minded is not always our strong suit. I'm not saying nobody is, but I personally was not. And so I had to get intentional. And I personally believe that money is neither good nor bad. It's just, you know, like putting that intention out there. And I don't want to say putting a timeline on yourself, but just saying like, this is me putting my intention out in the world to get something back and to get help.
Yeah, money is, I believe, I ascribe to money being energy, and money is a reflection of who you're being. And so if you look at your bank account or you look at the results in your business and you don't like it, that's kind of the cruel thing about entrepreneurship. You only have yourself to blame, right? You can't blame it on a boss or an owner that's not there. It really is a reflection of you. So the more internal work that you do, and especially when it comes to performance and like the mindset and the obstacles that you're putting in your own way and the limiting beliefs that are holding you back, you're not going to have the results that you want because you're not the person who can get those results. And so that's kind of the journey that we go on together. Yes, you'll learn the step-by-steps, but what good are the how-tos and the step-by-steps if you keep self-sabotaging along the way? Or, and we even had this on our hot seat today. One of our members went against her boundaries out of people pleasing, even though she is already burned out. And we had to have another conversation with her on, you are by flexing on your own boundaries, it's actually costing you more than if that client was disappointed. And so it's not like these members are like so much more evolved and like not facing a lot of the same struggles that solo lashers do. It's just they're in this environment where they're accountable, they're supported, and they're given the instructions step by step on how to get to a different level. And so she left, I hope, the call today feeling really motivated and protective of herself, which is where enforcing boundaries is getting that mama bear, like being protective of your own time and energy, which she was giving away freely. So let me know, any last final tips that you want to share with people that are considering joining this program?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, this is not the first time that we've talked about boundaries in this group. And it just goes to show, no matter how many YouTube videos you watch, no matter how many podcasts you listen to, these, like you said, self-sabotaging thoughts, if you don't, I don't want to say fix them, but if you don't switch your mindset about it, it's going to keep coming up. And you're going to be 10 years in business when you're at a certain point in 10 years without the intention, versus you could be that same spot in 2 years or in 3 years when you really get intentional and work through, you know, the evil thoughts in your mind about yourself, about your business, about your self-worth. So it's just worth it to go ahead and nip it in the bud in the beginning.
Yeah, and it's interesting having this collective group who you trust. I mean, coming into this, that they do have your best interest in mind, and they do have experience and wisdom to be able to share with you. And ultimately, you're going to make your decisions in your business. But if you get 3, 4, or even 6 people that you trust saying these things over and over again, you're kind of like, there's something to this. I must be missing something, or I need to implement it because they keep telling me to do this. So, well, thank you so much, Lauren. I appreciate it. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Finish up.
I was just going to say, even on the trip, I mean, hate to say it, we all know when you get a bunch of girls together, things happen, and there was never a heated conversation. Nobody fought. We all got along so well. There was so much respect because we all know we're coming from the same place and we're all trying to better ourselves. Like just so much growth, support, just all very beautiful women, like just there to
cheer each other on,
do the same thing.
Yeah. We check the egos at the door. It's really hard to have an ego drive any sort of conversations when you're in my community, because I as a coach, I get to the root of why people's egos might be making somebody feel a different way, or why they might even be judging themselves or having negative self-talk. So that was the beautiful thing that I loved about this group that showed me just how powerful community is when we got together in person. You guys had never met each other in person, yet you guys picked up so quickly. And even me, because I worked with you guys for 5 months, it felt so comfortable. Like we're a bunch of girlfriends hanging out. We met at one of the bars in Nashville, and it was just like, yeah, of course, like just picking up right where we had left off conversation. So, having never met these people before, it was so amazing to just have such a bonded time. And like you said, like it just felt comfortable. There was great advice being shared. You guys were up until what, like midnight every night? I mean, I went to bed, but y'all were hanging out,
Probably.
having wine, sharing stories, talking about personal, talking about professional. So it was a really amazing experience. So I'm so honored that you were a part of it, Lauren. Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me
Yeah,
be a witness
me
to your
too.
journey and for trusting me with speaking into your lives the way that I have over the past couple months.
Mhm.
All right,
you
guys.
so much.
Thanks so much for joining. If you guys want to join, we have applications opening for season 2 until June 10th. So if you're listening at the time of this episode, we may or may not have any more of the intro calls, but you can go to lashpreneur.com/mastermind to watch an intro call to learn more about the program, what's involved in it, the perks, the benefits, the opportunity, and then calls begin in July. So we are making final decisions by June 17th for season 2. So head on over to lashpreneur.com/mastermind to learn more about the program. Thanks so much, Lauren. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.